Welcome in, everybody. It is the Line Movers Network College Football Podcast. With me, as usual, Ian Robbins, and the tutor is back. He is so hot, we can't get rid of him. Tutor and Ian, welcome in, guys.
Well, I'm sure Ian got some question this week, but I just got to say that I am, as a Michigan fan, truly happy with the results of some of the games this week, and I'm looking forward to one more big upset this week that can really shape up the playoff picture.
Yeah, each week just brings out more and more and more things to talk about, questions, as many answers as you get, that many more questions pop up, which just makes it a lot of fun. What a great time to be a college football fan. And honestly, we cannot get to 12 soon enough, but it makes some of these games all that more interesting, especially ones that we'll talk about in the big picture items that we have coming up.
Yeah, it's what's so great about college football. So many big games every week. 4 playoff spots on the line. We're going to break down the 4 biggest games of the week. We are going to start in the 3:30 Eastern hour. A huge conference game, championship title might be on the line here. The 7-2 Central Florida is going into Tulane. Tulane sitting at 8-1 and is the highest non-Power 5 team ranked in the college football playoff. We know there's a playoff spot on the line for those teams and a huge paycheck. So this game is enormous. Central Florida again going to New Orleans, to Tulane. Tulane is a 2-point favorite, a total of 55. Tutor.
Yeah, there's a glimmer for hope for Tulane to make a New Year's Six Bowl with the win here. Because they also have SMU and Cincinnati on their schedule. They win those, you're talking about potential top 10 team. But first they got to beat Central Florida in what's going to be probably a preview of the championship game, right? The conference does the championship game too as well. So they might, play again, which would be wild if Central Florida would have beat them, or if they would have flip-flops, and I don't know what mid-major is out there, but we'll talk about that another week. But they both these teams have the offense to get a shootout, right? So I think the over hits. But the best player on the field is Spears from Tulane, and I do think Tulane wins it in the fourth quarter, 35-28. They cover.
Green wave for the tutor, Ian.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the other way. I've been really impressed with Tulane this year. They got the big win over Kansas State that looks so much more legit now. Responding last week, which was a huge sandwich spot, going on the road to Tulsa and going in there and covering the spread. Tulane's a good team. They're well coached, impressive. Spears is a great player. There's no question about that. I just think this UCF team is built on a different level. Gus Malzahn brought in some guys. John Reese Plumlee, if he's healthy, that's the big question. If John Reese Plumlee's healthy, this is a guy who started in the SEC at quarterback and receiver for that matter, but he's a difference maker. Isaiah Bowser's a guy who ran in the Big Ten. There's talent all up and down the field at UCF that I just don't think the athletes that they have can be matched by Tulane. Weather's not a factor. You're playing in a dome over here. Could be great atmosphere. This is definitely the 2 top teams that are competing for that New Year's Six Bowl. UCF's the team that's been there before, program that's been there before. Tulane, not in a long time. The spread's about even, which is, I think, where it should be. I think this is going to be a little bit lower scoring than you might expect with a Gus Malzahn team. The offensive talent is there. Defensive talent's also there, though. I do think they rematch. This should be very interesting. That's something that Boise State's going to definitely be cheering for a split. I think they're really the only team that's not in the American that can make a push for that Power 6, that Power 5.
Liberty
could. That's true. Liberty does have a couple big wins.
That's a good point. Yeah,
they're not conference affiliated, so that helps them out. So there's no conference championship game that they could lose. That's a good point. Liberty's definitely be cheering for a little split there as well. It's just hard to, Tulane wins this game, that they're pretty much locked in, because I think they will then knock UCF out of potential conference rematch, maybe, depending on who else is going there. There's still a lot to be determined in the American. But definitely the class of the teams. I'd like a physical, tough game in the Superdome. I just think the talent and the experience of UCF comes out on top. Close game, like Tudor said, 3-point game either way, 27-24, 24-21, late game, late, kind of like the Cincinnati UCF game. Should be a very fun game to watch in a game that doesn't have like a marquee game this weekend. This is a very fun game to watch.
I agree with you both. It'll be interesting. I'll be looking to see Central Florida is coming off two very tough big games, Cincinnati, and then they had Memphis last week. So can they wait? Can they bring it the energy again for the third straight week? But I agree with you both. Great game. Moving to the SEC, the CBS 3:30 game of the week. It's Saban and Kiffin. It's Alabama's going to the Grove. Alabama at Ole Miss. Alabama is a bigger favorite than I thought this would have come out as. Alabama, Tudor, 11.5-point favorite, 63.5 total. We're going to go to Ian first this time.
Yeah, this is a tough game to break down because you're almost trying to handicap mindset, which is something I like to do. I like to look at situational spots. I like to look at, what's the mindset of a team, where they last week, where they this week, where they going in their season. And Alabama just basically lost their season. The SEC West is out, title hopes are out, playoffs are out, national championships out. So that's what the players go to Alabama for. They don't go to bowl games, that's for sure. So they're going to go to a bowl game, but they're playing to play in the playoffs, and they're playing to play on New Year's Day. They're not playing in the first weekend of December. They're not going there to play on New Year's Day in the Capital One Bowl. And no offense to those programs who are there, because it's certainly a great accomplishment for those schools, but that's not what you go to Alabama for. That's certainly not what Nick Saban plans are beforehand. And it's going to be interesting. Now, Nick Saban kind of got turned over with Kirby Smart with a change in guard, one of his former assistants. So how's another former assistants come about? Lane Kiffin, one of his other former ones, Steve Sarkisian, almost beat him this year earlier. And how does Ole Miss respond? This is Ole Miss's season. They don't control their own destiny anymore with the LSU win, because they lost LSU. So they're hoping for LSU slip up, which could happen for them to give a shot at the SEC West. But they certainly could still state their claim. Only one loss to LSU, who is going to be ranked inside the top 10. Offense has been good, not great. Defense started out well, has certainly tailed off. I think they're a team that looked a lot better than they were earlier in the year and have not looked great when they played better competition. Nice one against Kentucky, and just struggled ever since. Auburn, they struggled with. LSU, just no show at. So how do they respond here? This is a tough game. I think that the Alabama letdown spot is going to be real. I think it's going to be a one possession game either way. I don't know. Bryce Young's Heisman Trophy winner, national championship game last year. Like, what are they playing for now? What's left? Is he maybe thinking about the NFL next year? In the NFL draft? I think that's where a lot of these guys are going to start thinking about protecting themselves, thinking about the NFL draft. I don't think they're giving their full focus to this. Lane Kiffin will have the attention of Ole Miss and the players right there. I think they play their best game offensively for sure. If nothing else, Ole Miss team total should go over, given the first half. I do think Ole Miss comes out strong, comes out firing. Ole Miss first half money line, Ole Miss with the points, and let's go over the total as well.
Ian's a rebel this weekend. Tudor.
Yeah, you said a lot of things I was going to say. Off topic, Ole Miss has one loss, right? And a lot of people are talking about the SEC is going to get two teams in the playoff. I mean, what if they're the second team with only one loss? So they're kind of playing for something for a program like Ole Miss. Them getting into the New Year's Six Bowl big. Them going into the last weekend with one loss and a potential playoff bid, which obviously is unlikely. LSU would have to beat Georgia pretty soundly, and then maybe Ole Miss had a chance. But they have something to play for, as Ian said. And Alabama, it's kind of like, shoot, we're not Alabama anymore. I don't understand the 2 points, the 12 points, especially on the road. I do think if Ole Miss can score first, look out for the upset. Lane Kiffin is definitely looking to be the next Kirby Smart and take over Nick Saban and be the second assistant to beat him this year. I do think Alabama is gonna pull it off at the end. I don't know why. But the upside is obviously still there. I do think it's going to go under 31-27 Alabama-ish.
I like it. So all three of us like Ole Miss. What could possibly go wrong?
My mind.
Okay, let's go out west, Tudor. Home in Oregon, in Eugene, against Washington. Washington was off to a hot start. They've cooled down a little. The offense was humming early, and it seemed to have slowed down a bit. Last week, I know they had a rough go with Oregon State for a while. They pulled it out in the end. It was windy, so maybe the offense had a little issue there. It's going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern game. Kickoff, they're going to play in Eugene. Washington, UW at Oregon. Oregon is a big 13.5-point favorite, a total of 72.5. Tudor.
Yeah, had this been in Washington, I would have definitely said upset watch. Points are going to get scored, and when points get scored, dangerous throws happen and things happen, right? So I could see Washington having a chance here. But this is in Eugene. They're on a mission until that's the USC game. They have a chance to make the playoff. I think they were 5 today. I think one. I was watching Big Ten something today. The guy put him at 4. It's theirs to lose. So he was saying it was their spot to lose. So I do like them to pull away at the end. Washington potentially backdoor covered a touchdown at the end of the game. But the big storyline here that nobody's really talking about is Bo Nix. If he looks good here and continues to look good, I don't. Hooker and Stroud did not do them any favors. This could be Bo Nix Heisman to lose right now, if he continues to do well.
Fantastic
so
point.
Oregon wins, doesn't cover because of the back door, 38-31, so the total's close to.
Great breakdown, Tudor. Ian, what are you thinking?
Yeah, that Bo Nix take is real. You got to write that one down.
Yes.
If you see a future number on Bo Nix, I would take it. I think that's a more in play thing than Oregon to even win the title. I think Bo Nix to win the Heisman. If they get there, he's in New York, and the way things are going right now, he's got a chance. And there's no question about it. And then the story about Bo Nix leaving Auburn, now Auburn's in disarray, going out west, coming back to the season that he's had. Tremendous point right there. This is, again, I talk about situation spots. Oregon's really in a tricky spot. Now, they're obviously on thin ice. They've been getting better, and they've answered the call. Like, easy spot to kind of look ahead, go to Colorado, lay an egg, win by 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, and then to put that game away early and put it to rest, come back home. Next week, they got Utah, which doesn't look quite as appetizing. It's still a 2-loss Utah team that's going to be ranked inside the top 15. Give them a little spotlight on the just a little south of them. USC is taking on UCLA, the other 2 best teams in the Pac-12. So big week in the Pac-12 next week that we'll talk about. So I don't think Oregon, are they looking ahead? I don't know. I don't think so. I just think, these guys have kind of been through the ringer. Bo Nix is not some kind of freshman who's stepped up. This guy has been through it. I mean, he stepped in the shadow of his dad at a school that he's been at since he was a kid, tried to step into his father's shoes and got booed out of town. That he was beloved as a freshman, sophomore kind of ran him out of town. And now it's kind of a comeback story. He understands adversity. He's been through it. He knows not to take things for granted. So I think that goes into the whole look ahead spot. And that loss to Georgia looks a lot better and better and better. So this is our weekly shout out to Trey with Oregon, Georgia. Throw that game out because that's a long time ago, and Georgia looks very much the best team, and Oregon looks like that team right now that should compete. Washington seems to be getting worse and worse as the year's gone on. Offense has been getting worse. I don't know if they can score with Oregon. I know the back door is open for sure. Maybe Oregon lets the foot off the gas and the back door is there. I just don't see if they can score with Oregon that well this week at night. Who knows what the weather's going to be? I think Oregon wins by about 3 touchdowns plus. Shuts them down. Oregon's just on a different level this year. Bo Nix, Heisman. I'm totally tailing Tudor on that one. Tudor, that was a great call. Do that. If you listen
I
to one
agree
thing
with you.
today, listen to what Tudor said and get a Bo Nix Heisman ticket.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
my thing with this game is that has Oregon played a team with an offense like that? So I kind of want to see what happens. I want to see what they happen with Penix and they got some good receivers and running back is really well. So I feel like this might be the best team Oregon has played. So you're gonna get some questions answered this week about Oregon.
And I agree with both of you. It's nice to see Nix, come through after his run out of town. Had a rough go there at Auburn. The expectations were crazy high. The coaches were all over the place. So I'm with you. I feel good for the kid. So hopefully he'll come through. The last game, we're going to go to the Big 12. We're going to Texas, 7:30 Eastern, the big one in the Lone Star State. Texas Christian, TCU, is going to Austin to take on the Longhorns, the newly minted number 4 team in the college football playoff, Horned Frogs, going into Austin. Texas is a full 7-point favorite, a total of 64.5. Ian, what do you think?
I've been going against TCU the last couple of weeks. It's been burning me. And I've watched a lot of those games, and I know they've been getting down in the second half. And last week against Texas Tech in the whole fourth quarter is going for it in their own territory, giving up touchdowns. So all of a sudden, Texas Tech is now blowing the spread, and TCU's got the spread. It seems like this has got to end at some point. And for them to be number 4 undefeated and be over a touchdown underdog is just crazy. That number is telling you the books want you to take TCU, which tells me to take Texas. Texas is so hard to trust, though, because they had Oklahoma State in their grasp in a similar situation here and totally folded. They couldn't close the game out. I know Ewers got hurt. They couldn't close the game out against Alabama. They couldn't close the game out against Texas Tech without Ewers. Does Texas have more talent? Yeah. Are they the better team? Yeah. Are they better coach? I don't know. Sonny Dykes is a pretty good coach.
Great.
All power to TCU if they pull this one off. I just think when they lose, they're going to lose big. And I can't, after seeing them get down time and time again, playing with fire, I just can't jump on their train yet. Not yet. I don't know if I ever will. So for that, I got to go with the number. The number is telling me to take Texas, but that's all I got to say. I know Tudor's got a lot of opinions about TCU.
Hit it, Tudor.
I said it last week. The Big 12 is just a bunch of TCUs, right? Anybody can beat anybody in a given day, and TCU just has answered the challenge, and now they're number 4 in the country. I'm sure a lot of people were surprised when they saw the spread open, but I think it's perfect. This is the first time Texas has been home in a month. I think they had a bye week and 3 road games or something like that. I think they're ready to prove they are the best team in the Big 12. They did have a letdown spot against Texas Tech, Alabama. That was unfortunate with the quarterback getting hurt, but TCU has been winning too many close games, and somebody got to lose every week. Ain't gonna be Michigan, and maybe Georgia. We'll talk about that later. But ain't gonna be Michigan, ain't gonna be Ohio State. So I think it's gonna be TCU's flipper that comes off this week. This is a tough road atmosphere. I don't think people realize how tough at Texas is. TCU probably scored the garbage touchdown, like I said. Washington would do at the end of the game. So Texas still prevailed 35 to 28, but the game would never in doubt. I don't think so.
Great stuff. Remember, please follow us along on Twitter all season long, all year long at @the_LM Network. We're on Twitter all the time, so give us a follow. Follow Ian Robbins all year long. He's great on golf. He's great on college football. He knows all his sports. And he is on Twitter at ROBINSIAN, at Robbins Ian on Twitter. And follow the Tudor at DK Sleepers, Great guys to follow for all your sports. There he is. guys, I'm going to give you the quick playoff rankings. But first, America wants to win some money, Tudor. You're red hot. We only broke down 4 games. You got games off besides those 4. Help everyone out. Give them some winners.
Well, you want some upset winners.
Yeah.
So I like A&M this week on the road. They're a small underdog, but I like Louisville to be a potential dog win against Clemson. My biggest one, Temple. Temple looked good last week, and they got a defense. And I know they're playing Houston, and Houston doesn't have a defense. I think Temple could be the big one to pick if you're trying to take a long shot. And I mentioned earlier in the podcast, Mississippi State guys. I know they're playing Georgia. Georgia's the best team in the nation. Do I think Mississippi State's going to win? No. But hear me out. Mike Leach can coach, right? They're at home. I don't think they've lost a home yet this year. Georgia isn't game planning for Tennessee this week. No, they're game planning for Mississippi State and Mike Leach. Which, how do you even game plan for that? So I think they go for the motion. They go through the motion, just like Michigan goes through the motion when they just run the ball or Alabama in the pass. I think they go in the motion. This game will be closer than you think. And if Bennett makes a stupid mistake, a pick six kind of thing, you want a big dog, put some on Mississippi State. I like Purdue over Illinois. Illinois is a fraud. They can only beat teams that can run the ball like them. They like the team that can keep it run, clock management, and Purdue won't do that. Purdue will come out passing. And my biggest one, well, not my biggest one, but the one I really want to happen is those pesky Rutgers who try to give Michigan a little fight in the first half. They're gonna smoke Michigan State. Like I said, Illinois is a little bit overrated. Michigan State's going to come in pretty cocky that they just got a big win, and I think Rutgers comes in and Greg Schiano is a very good coach, and I think he outcoaches Tucker, and they get the upset there. So I got Alabama, I got A&M, Louisville, Temple, Rutgers, Purdue, and maybe Mississippi State if you want some 6 good, upsets.
I love the 6-pack. Great stuff, Tudor. Ian, the new college playoff rankings came out just a couple hours ago. I'm going to list them, rank them down 8-1. I want to get your thoughts. Coming in at number 8 from the Pac-12, USC, 7 off their brand new upset of Alabama at home, LSU. 6, the Ducks from Oregon. 5, those Volunteers from 1 to 5, Tennessee Falls. 4, TCU. Most didn't think that was coming. 3, Tudors, Wolverines. 2, Ohio State. And brand new number 1 in the college football playoffs, fresh off their knocking off number 1 Tennessee, is the Dogs from Georgia.
Yeah, it's putting Tennessee at 5, but ahead of Oregon. What to make of that? Now, Oregon still has their big games. They still got Utah. They still have USC ahead of them. So what do you make of that? Now, dropping Tennessee, I thought they were going to stick at 4, to be honest, and TCU was going to have a way to earn their way up. But now TCU is like, all right, committee says, all right, TCU, you're undefeated, Big 12. Here you go. Let's see what you got. I think that's the spot that gets knocked out this week. I'm with Tudor on that. It's gonna be it's still gonna be so much to work out. Ohio State, Michigan says, all right, they can have a loss, they can still be in there. So say Oregon loses, say USC loses, say both those teams have 2 losses, TCU lost and out, Clemson's out. That opens up the door for, is it Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, Tennessee? Maybe. I think the door is open for that. I think that's the interesting piece to take away here, is that those teams have the least amount to do. I think for a future perspective, not a lot of value, unless I think the only team that has value is USC. I think that's a legitimately team that's going to be favored in a lot of their games, that has an actual shot to make it. The only other team I'd say that could backdoor sneak their way in is LSU. But I would not take a future on LSU. The way I would bet that is you're going to bet a money line rollover because they have to win out to make the playoff. And they're going to be underdogs. So they're a 3-point favorite, short favorite this week. So you bet them about minus 130, whatever it is. You take that, whatever you're going to put on the future, you roll that over. So whatever you returned, you're going to roll that money over into next week, bet them to win next week. Take that money, roll it over to the next week because they're going to have to do the work. They're still going to have to beat Georgia as a huge underdog in the last game. So that's going to end up being about a ticket that's much probably 2-3 times the worth of whatever their future number is right now, because they're the team that has to do the work. And that's how I would play that game if you want to bet on LSU. Don't bet the future, money line roll over that. I think the only future value is on USC. I know they're probably overrated. I don't think they're better than Oregon is, but I think they're legitimately have a chance with everything in front of them to make the playoff as the easiest path, other than the guys in front of them. So that's how I play the futures market. David, you always like to play that futures market. You see anything there?
I do. First of all, I agree with what you said there, Ian, and people should be listening because you know your college football, and he's a math teacher. So do the numbers. Ian knows the games. Follow along. You'll win. What I see Ian and Tudor here is value on Tennessee, and I'm going to give you the path. I like Tennessee to make the playoffs. I saw the number earlier this morning, minus 200. I saw them to win the title at 18-1. I like them both. Here's why. Tennessee has left 3 games: Missouri, South Carolina, and Vandy. I don't see any trouble there. They win those 3, no problem. Okay, here comes the rest of the path. In the SEC, I see Georgia rolling through. They're going to get one of those seats. I think the SEC will get 2. People are starting to talk about LSU. If LSU can get by this weekend in Fayetteville and beat the Razorbacks, eventually they're going to run into Georgia in the Georgia Dome, in Atlanta, in the SEC title game. I don't see them winning that game. 3rd loss, like Ian said, they're done, they're out. Ole Miss has Alabama, Arkansas, and Mississippi State. They got a chance, but I don't see them winning all 3 games. Let's go. So I have 2 in the SEC. That's Georgia and the Tennessee that I'm making the case for. The ACC is out. Clemson blew their chance last week at Notre Dame. Don't tell Trey this. The next team up is probably North Carolina. I don't see them getting in with the 1 loss, even if they run the table from here. Pac-12, although they could beat themselves up and knock themselves out, I'll give them 1 spot. Let's give it to Oregon, but USC and LA are still in play here. So I'm going to give the Pac-12 1 spot. The Big Ten, the winner of the Ohio State-Michigan game, gets the spot. The Big 12, and I like TCU. I'm all in on the Sonny Dykes. But this week, they're a dog in Texas. Next week, they're going to be a dog in Baylor. They got Iowa State at home, which won't be tough to close out the season. If they run all 3 of those, 2 on the road, they're going to have to play 1 more of probably Baylor, Texas, or Kansas State in the Big 12 championship. I don't see them winning all 4 of those games. I'm sorry. So then basically the only reason I think this gets upset is, so I have Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State winner, 1 in the Pac-12, and I'm giving Tennessee the 4th spot. My only issue here, Tudor, I want you to chime in. If the Michigan-Ohio State game is a classic, it goes back and forth and someone wins on a crazy game or a win in the last seconds, I can see them both getting in and knocking out a second SEC team. But if it's Michigan with the 1 loss, I think it's a little tougher because that non-conference schedule was a joke. I see them giving a little more lenience to Ohio State. If they're the team with the loss, Michigan would be icy. So my only thing that upsets my whole Tennessee to the playoffs is if Michigan and Ohio State both get in.
Yeah, here's the thing. So everybody's talking about Georgia and Tennessee still possibly getting in, right?
Yeah.
That game wasn't that classic, right?
No.
Georgia smoked them. So
Georgia looked like a different class.
So why couldn't the argument be Ohio State, Michigan, 35, 31, last second overtime? I don't know, whatever. Why wouldn't those be better than Tennessee, who who didn't do well already. I heard the argument someone today. Why would you put Tennessee in, who had their chance and didn't even look good? Now, if Tennessee came out rocking, it was a good game. Great, I'm all for it. Tennessee, but they had their chance. They didn't even look good. So if Ohio State and Michigan put on a classic, which is going to be, I don't know if you guys realize this, it's going to be the most watched football game in the history of college football. You watch. The last year, I think they said last week's game was 13 million or something like that. That didn't even top last year's Ohio State Michigan game. And this year is going to be more. Dollar Bills speak. So, yeah, Michigan played a weak non-conference schedule, but they handled all those teams pretty convincingly, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not their fault. It's not their fault you schedule a team 4 years in advance and they're not good anymore. Hawaii's always been okay. Colorado State's been okay. UConn, but that's not their fault. You still have Penn State in the schedule. You still have Iowa, who unfortunately didn't do as well. Michigan State's not. I mean, it's not their fault, but they're dominating these teams, right? So I don't think either team would be affected by the loss. You got to remember, Michigan can be on the road, so if they actually look good on the road and lose small, they should be all right. I money talks. If it's a close game, I think the committee. I said it last week. The committee put Georgia 3 because they knew they were going to beat Tennessee, and they wanted to save Tennessee to drop them small. So, and that's what happened. And they're doing the same thing with TCU. They know TCU is going to lose, and they can feel like we put TCU in, but they're going to lose, and Tennessee or Oregon's going to come back up. I think the Pac-10 is going to be. I really do think the Pac-12 is going to beat each other up. UCLA's Notre Dame can still beat USC, right? So that's not even Pac-10. I could see all those teams having 2 losses. Tennessee, it's going to be between Tennessee and the Big Ten loser. I really do, and it's going to be heart-wrenching because I can see them picking an SEC team because that's their darling. But I just hope Michigan wins that game. But yeah, you got to give me. You got to give me Georgia. Just in the when we talk about the week schedule, Georgia played like crap against Kent State, right? Look
They
bad
did
against
take Oregon.
That Oregon game is going to loom large for them.
Yeah.
Right, but they had week 9 conference game that they didn't look good. Michigan looked good, right? Michigan looked good. Who did Tennessee play? Tennessee's Martin. I mean, like all these teams are playing bad teams.
They played Pitt in Pitt.
Yeah. So I do think Michigan or Ohio State is gonna get screwed. I do hope maybe Tennessee loses another game. Georgia should win the national championship. They're good in every aspect of the game.
Ian, I agree with Tudor on that. With if the Michigan Ohio State game is tight, Ian, I want to know your playoff 4 as we sit here today. But let me ask you one question: is it possible Michigan, Ohio State, Tennessee, and Georgia could all get in? Is that possible?
I think so. I mean, obviously, we're assuming that these teams are that whoever wins that Michigan Ohio State game is gonna win
close
the conference title. I don't think we're confident
correct
there. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about, okay, Utah goes ahead, beats Oregon, and then Oregon and USC, UCLA then go ahead and beat. There's so many things that can happen in the Pac-12, and Utah can end up in that top. And Utah's not going to make the playoff as a 2-loss team, no matter what.
Nope.
Oregon, I don't think has any room for error because no matter what happens, they have that loss to Georgia. They have to win out. A 2-loss Oregon team is going to look real bad going over it because of that 1 loss being to that team. But that loss on the other side basically cements Georgia in no matter what, because Georgia's just going to be, well, we beat this team that's in the top 10 by 46 and we played them non-conference. And so the non-conference game now is going to help Oregon if they win out. It's going to be like, well, we went on the road. We went to Georgia a week 1 and we played Georgia, we're better now, but we padded our schedule. We did what we had to do. And that's why you see these SEC teams now starting to play out of conference. Florida would never schedule a game like that. Now all of a sudden they're playing Utah, they're playing Texas. This is why, because they can get in as an at-large. So Tennessee playing Pitt, while Pitt's not great, but going on the road to play Pitt out of conference is like, well, they tried, they did something. That's a Power 5 versus Power 5 game. And that means something. So Ohio State playing Notre Dame now gives them that little edge. But Michigan, your tutor said Michigan wins on the road, they're in for sure. All right, they could probably lose the conference game.
Probably.
So yeah, I think it's possible. Because the Pac-12 is just on thin ice. USC with one loss is in. UCLA with one loss is in.
Yep.
Utah's not in with 2 losses. Oregon's not in with 2 losses. So they're both really, and they're going to eliminate each other next week when they play each other. So one team is
USC out. Also USC plays Notre Dame. There's a conference champion.
Right.
So they could really knock them all out.
So I think TCU is going to be underdog in 3 of the last 4 games. So I think that knocks them out. And Texas with 3 losses is not going to be in. The likely favorite. Baylor's not going to be in. Kansas State's not going to be in with 2 losses. So I really do think that you could see an SEC Big Ten and
crazy
SEC guy here, Big Ten guy there with tutor. It's not ideal, but 4 best teams. I don't know. You can debate this all. There's only 3 weeks left, but there's still so much that could happen. It's amazing. The thin ice out west, real thin ice for TCU. I mean, that ice is super, super thin. I don't think there's any other team looming. Oh, LSU maybe, but they have to beat Georgia. And then that would knock Tennessee up. But then you're saying that 2-loss LSU team over a 1-loss Tennessee team that beat them by 40. So that's a weird conversation that you get into right there.
In LSU.
So those are the kind of conversations that you're going to start to have. My top 4 right now, obviously Georgia. I think Georgia clinches. Winner Ohio State, Michigan. I think Tennessee is okay. And I do think I'm going to go USC. I think USC has a little bit more to gain. I like Lincoln Riley. I like Caleb Williams. I like their offense. I think USC, even though they don't look great, they're giving up all these points to Cal and stuff like that. I just think USC's experience and Lincoln Riley being there before, I think they do get it done and make the playoff. I think they get it done and make the playoff.
Well, if USC win the remaining of their schedule, that's a phenomenal schedule.
Yes.
Their schedule up to this point has been a joke.
Yeah.
Like you talk about Michigan's schedule, there's been a joke too. So yeah, if they win this out, hey, absolutely.
So I'm gonna go with USC there. Their only loss is on the road with 2-point conversion at Utah. Like it's Cam Rising, Utah. That's a good loss. Interesting. Let's play it out. If I was gonna bet for one scenario to happen, I'd bet on the Big Ten SEC showdown. I just have a feeling that's gonna be the case. I don't know why. I just think so.
I'd love to see it just to hear everyone complain for 2 weeks, but
yeah,
it would be fascinating. Really fascinating.
You know how long college football has been waiting for a Tennessee Michigan do-over?
Yeah.
From 1997.
Since 97.
Can you imagine the storyline?
Yeah.
And Ohio State and Georgia on the other side?
And the other side, oh man.
All right, guys, we got to wrap it up. A great discussion.
All right.
Good luck this week, everybody.
Good luck, everyone. Follow us all season long at the Line Movers Network.